Football with Farhan and Moj. We almost went live today.
Almost.
It was that close.
That close. But our local internet provider failed us. So
we're not going to throw that one under the bus either.
We just did. I'm not going to mention Shaw.
I'm saying we're not going to mention the name.
No, Shaw. I don't just mention Shaw.
I don't work for it.
Okay.
Hey, Football with Farhan and Moj brought to you by Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance, which provides comprehensive benefit packages to businesses from one person and up, including home-based businesses. 30,000 businesses and 900 Chambers of Commerce agree. The Chambers plan simple, stable, smart.
Also, the West Coast Auto Group, Scott Jones, Michelle Jones, the Jones family out in Maple Ridge. Check them out just over the bridge in Maple Ridge. Visit them online at westcoastautogroup.com.
Final week of the NFL preseason has come and gone, just 3 weeks for all but two of the teams this year. And a lot of storylines, but all of that, we had this big script, and we just kind of chucked it out because Cam Newton got cut. Mac Jones is the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots.
See, and this is where you're like completely frazzled now.
I am a kid in a candy store, not frazzled.
No, you're always frazzled because you TV guys, everything's scripted. No. You got to go by scripts. Us radio guys, boom, just give it to us and we can run with it.
I know.
I don't need a script.
There is meat on the bone here, so much so that even Moj wanted to talk quarterbacks.
Meat on the bone, and the biggest reason. The biggest thing people are talking about, what's the reasoning behind this? Why did the Patriots cut Cam Newton? And, the more you look at it, the more you read reports, the more people you talk to, the more you know. The fact is this, Cam Newton is an alpha dog. Will an alpha dog like Cam Newton be satisfied being a backup quarterback? Probably not. And the other thing, too, is if you keep him around, does it divide up the locker room? Does one half of the locker room want Cam Newton to start? The other half want Mac Jones to start? By releasing Cam Newton, you eliminate that issue, and it's not a money thing. Guaranteed, 3.5, I think?
Yeah, it's a low number. But look, so many layers to this story. We will get into this as this show progresses. So much other news going on around the National Football League. Minor injury for Trey Lance. Carson Wentz, he's got to go into COVID protocol himself, along with a couple of other members of the Colts. We've got lots going on in college football because the first big weekend of the college football season is coming up. Had a few games last week. Lots of CFL news. The BC Lions, Mojo's in Ottawa. They won a big game as well. And news out of Edmonton. Oh, my goodness. Jacob Ruby of the Edmonton Elks has been released due to COVID reasons. And my understanding is that it's because he misrepresented his status as far as vaccinations is concerned. So, this is a busy day.
Hold on. Misrepresenting. In other words, he lied. He lied. Misrepresenting.
It's a nice way to say it.
Wow. What are you thinking? I just don't understand. What are you thinking? If you want to take a certain position regarding vaccination, hey, you're within your right to do so. And a business or a football team is within their right to say, we don't want you around. But to lie about this.
He just wanted to live on the other side of the fence. He wanted to have his own protocols. Yeah, so that didn't go so well for him. And look, this is the week that everybody's going to be doing their fantasy team. Some will wait until the Thursday right before the NFL season. Right, 8 days from now, because you want to get all the injury reports, and that makes sense. But a lot of the fantasy leagues are happening now. We will give you some input, some advice, and when you look at this Mac Jones situation, it affects props, it affects fantasy. There's just so many layers to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great show.
All of a sudden now, Mac Jones is your favorite to win Rookie of the Year in the National Football League, plus 250.
And he was plus 800 just the other day, and he's now plus 250. We got to do trivia. Are we going to do that now, or are we going to do that after? The Ravens, with their 20th consecutive preseason victory. So that sets the NFL record. So we want to ask you, brought to you by Blue Recruitment, before the Ravens broke this record this weekend, which team held the record for consecutive preseason wins? Is there a trophy that goes with that, a banner?
No, who knows?
Do the Mo Jets make an appearance?
No, but who cares about preseason and records in preseason? That's who cares? That's not even trivia. You shouldn't even announce that.
No, you shouldn't. But hey, look, it's something. They got a player injured over it. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show.
J.K. Dobbins.
Football with Farhan and Moj. You can catch us on all your favorite social media platforms, all your favorite podcast platforms. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Farhan and Moj, on our website, farhanandmoj.com. We will be back. Great show coming up.
Has your employee benefits plan evolved, or is it time for a second opinion? Simple to use but strong on features, Chambers Plan is trusted by more than 30,000 businesses. Every plan includes convenient access to free world-class services that support the health of your business and the well-being of your employees, including 24-hour medical support and business assistance services. Chambers Plan, all the essentials and so much more, tailored to your team members. For more information or to request a quote, visit chamberplan.ca. Chambers Plan, the employee benefits of tomorrow, today.
It was the openness, it was the transparency was the word we used. And we found West Coast to be very transparent.
Here was probably the best experience we've had.
A better buying experience is just across the bridge in Maple Ridge at the West Coast Auto Group.
Football with Farhan and Moj live from Mahony's Tavern, and we are 1 week away from the start of the NFL regular season. You're going to get a full television production for that show. You can log in on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Find us at farhanandmoj.com on our website, Twitter, Instagram, all of it. And looking forward to that one because not only do we get to see the Moj, but I'm going to be in Tampa.
Yeah, you're going to be all dolled up, got your little TV face on, going to be down on the sidelines, hanging out with Brady and Arians and the whole crew down there. You're going to have some fun.
It is going to be fun. The Mojets are coming.
The Mojets are coming, but they're not going to Tampa. We'll talk about that later.
All right, now look, Cam Newton, when I got up this morning and I saw this story, I was blown away because, on the surface, you just didn't expect Cam Newton to get cut. We knew there was a quarterback battle here. No one really wanted to believe there was a battle because Bill Belichick led everybody to believe that this was going to be Cam Newton. He wasn't making a decision, but the way he was setting everything up, it was certainly leaning towards Newton, not because he was playing better, but just because of how things were getting handled. And it never really dawned on any of us that going with Mac Jones means you cut Cam Newton. But really, after the fact, it made a lot of sense that if you were going to make the ballsy decision to go with this rookie, that it probably doesn't make sense to keep the veteran around.
There was a school of thought for those people that like Mac Jones that thought perhaps Newton would get the start. Everyone would see how it went. Perhaps you could ease Mac Jones in, and maybe by week 5, I think Houston was the scheduled opponent in week 5. That's where Mac Jones might have been able to have, quote, a soft landing. Well, guess what? They've kind of sped up the process. And right now, this is Mac Jones's team. So you ask yourself, what caused this to occur? Well, number one, clearly there's a great amount of confidence in Mac Jones because you don't have a backup plan now in Cam Newton.
No.
Right?
Brian Hoyer.
And the other thing, too, is I think you also have to look at the makeup of Cam Newton. And, I just think being the alpha dog that he is, being that type of player, would it mean him being a good mentor to Cam Jones? I don't know. Maybe Bill Belichick knows. I think probably the other thing that comes into play, too, well, a couple more things. Number one, it doesn't divide up a locker room, half the room wanting Jones, perhaps half the room wanting a veteran like Newton. And then ask yourself this, he's not vaccinated. Does that come into play?
Yeah, all of it's all legitimate circumstance and context around all of this. And here's the thing, Cam Newton didn't play poorly.
No.
Right? When you look at his stats, he looked much more comfortable in Josh McDaniels' offense than he has at any point last season. Completion percentage in the high 60s. But Mac Jones is just that much better.
You just nailed it. But when you talk about all the quarterbacks and the rookie quarterbacks in preseason, Mac Jones graded out the highest with Pro Football Focus's ranking system. So he's looked real good. Now the question is, can he do it when it's for real?
When you look at the numbers, in terms of his Pro Football Focus grade, 92.2, blew away all the other rookies in the class. Zach Wilson had a pretty good number as well at 85.7. But the second-ranked quarterback, period, was Mac Jones. His accurate pass percentage, 70.8. So, again, big lead over the rest of the field as far as rookies are concerned, but third overall among all quarterbacks in the preseason. And look, some of the top quarterbacks didn't play, but nonetheless, he did. He also had time with the first team. He did see first-team defenses from time to time. When you look at his numbers in practice, in the controlled scrimmages with other teams, by every statistical measure, he graded out higher. And again, Newton was good. Jones was that much better. The only thing he didn't really factor in was Cam Newton's ability to run the football because you're just not going to do that in practice in preseason. But go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to mention the other thing I think that comes into play here is I think Bill Belichick has to admire the makeup of Mac Jones, right? You don't give this to a kid unless you know he has it between the ears because there's going to be tremendous pressure now that he's the guy. How's he going to handle adversity? Because there will be adversity. And let me throw this to you there, Mr. Quarterback Savant. How many starts? He said 17 starts in college. That's it. Right? It's not like you're talking about some kid who came out of a program where he played 4 years or 3, 4, 5 years. 17 starts. That's it.
Nick Saban and Bill Belichick are very good friends. Saban, the coach at the University of Alabama, Mac Jones was his quarterback there. And you have to believe that, not only did Saban's input help at draft time, but it probably helped at some point in this decision. The vaccine, Cam Newton had to sit 5 days because he violated protocol. The team took the hit for it, and they said, look, we gave him permission. It was a mix-up. It wasn't him trying to violate team rules or anything like that. They took the hit, but you do have to believe, you bring it up, that at some point during the season, because he's not vaccinated, if he's a close contact again and has to sit for 5 days, you're putting yourself in a real problem at that point.
You touched on something that I'll expand upon, and you mentioned Belichick and Saban. I watched a documentary recently. I can't remember who it was, but it was basically the relationship between Belichick and Saban.
Yeah.
And, Saban's talking about the fact that here he is, the head coach of Alabama. He goes, he says, rarely does he get a phone call from an NFL coach asking him about prospects. And he was talking to this about Belichick. He was like, had they phoned me, I would have told them that this guy probably wouldn't be a good player at the NFL level because nobody calls me. But Belichick and Saban have a great relationship. I can guarantee you that Belichick did his due diligence talking to Saban and saying, hey, not only what is Mac Jones like physically, but what's he like mentally? How does he handle adversity? Is he coachable? All of those things I think have come into play.
His ability to prepare has really impressed the veterans in that room. And when I look at this scenario, you know what I think of? I think of Russell Wilson in 2012. Now, Cam Wilson is certainly a much more accomplished NFL player than Matt Flynn was at the time. But Flynn was brought in to be the guy. And Newton hasn't really had much of any success in New England because he's only been there a year. Yes, he's an MVP. He's been in the Super Bowl with Carolina. But in terms of what he did in New England, hadn't done much. You look at 2012, and Russell Wilson just outplayed Matt Flynn. And I remember it like it was yesterday when he made the announcement. He goes, everybody in that locker room knew, and I couldn't go into that locker room and look all those players in the face and say that Russ didn't earn this and that Flynn gives you the best chance to win because they all saw what they saw. And I think some of that happened here, that this guy prepared so well, he handled every moment so well that for all Cam Newton has done, I think Bill Belichick, if he has any sort of meritocracy, competitiveness, like he says that all the time, everything's a competition.
Yeah.
If you say that and you walk into that room and Mac Jones was better in every scenario, you have to pull the trigger, don't you?
Well, of course, and as a coach, you lose credibility because what do we hear from coaches so many times? Hey, that position, it's up for grabs, or, we have an open competition. And then if you have somebody who is clearly better than someone else and deserves to be the starter and you don't start them, well, what type of credence do you have with everything else that you say in terms of, having open competitions?
Last thing on this topic, tell me if I'm reaching.
You're reaching.
Okay, I'll try again.
Okay.
You think Belichick and Josh McDaniels see Tom Brady in Mac Jones? And I say that not only has he got the bad body, if you saw the pictures after they won the national championship, but it's an offense. He can run the offense. I'm not saying he's as good as Tom Brady. I'm just saying stylistically they can run the same type of offense that Josh McDaniels is comfortable with, that Bill Belichick is comfortable with. A quarterback who's cerebral, plays the game with his mind, can make the reads and just play that way. I'm not suggesting they believe that that Mac Jones is going to go out and win 7 Super Bowls, but do you think that has anything to do with it?
I think it has a lot to do with it. And I had a great conversation the other day with G. Roy Simon and the Lions, with their personnel guy. And we're talking about what makes New England so great. You know that New England over the years has had the highest rate of the amount of college grads on their roster?
Yeah.
They're always up there. I don't know what the number is, 78, 80.
That's a great stat.
So every year they have, quote, smart football players on that team. They have hybrid football players who can understand concepts, who can understand different things, play different positions. They want smart players. And I think when you're looking at Mac Jones, that has to come into play as well. They've looked at him and said, hey, this guy not only, he might be a little shy perhaps in some of the physical aspects, but he's smart. This guy has it between the ears, and he's going to be able to learn what we want to do.
Here's one for you. We mentioned Nick Saban. His 2018 team had Tua, Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, 4 first-round NFL receivers, and 3 first-round NFL O-linemen on that 2018 team. 3 starting quarterbacks, including Mac Jones now, and we know for sure at least 3 rookies are going to start day one, including Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. Another quarterback topic, Desean Watson.
Speaking of Tua starting.
So there was a report over the last couple of days that the Miami Dolphins were interested in trading for Desean Watson. Desean Watson certainly would like to play for Miami. There were some other teams in the discussion, including Philadelphia, as we talk about another Alabama quarterback in Jalen Hurts. But It doesn't look like that's going to happen right now. The Texans' asking price is still a ridiculous 3 first-round draft picks for a guy that might not play for 2 years, Moj. Not 1 year, but when they talk about where his court cases are headed, it could impact the 2022 season, yet the Texans are asking for that kind of money. So we'll get into the Texans side of it first, but if you are the Miami Dolphins, you just traded Ryan Fitzpatrick this offseason, Tua's your guy. What are you thinking? And what is Tua thinking?
Here's the thing. The reports you're hearing out of Miami is that the owner, Stephen Ross, is the guy who's behind this whole Desean Watson push. And if the owner wants that guy, surely they're going to try to find a way to get this done. Now, when you look at the trade aspect of it, I think the way to structure this deal that makes sense, it's going to be something that will be based on how many games Desean Watson plays, right? You're not going to just throw away 3 first-round draft picks. And as you mentioned, not have the ability to play this guy should something occur with the National Football League in terms of discipline. But I think the big thing, what you want to do if you're trying to structure a deal, all of it should be based on how many games he plays. So if he plays 14 or more games, first-round pick. If he plays between 8 and 13, say a second-round pick. Anything below 7 or 6, it's a third-round pick. You get it. I mean, you just basically grade those draft picks.
God, and you just wonder, when I covered him at Clemson in 2 national championships, and then again, in Houston, you just never saw this coming. And it almost makes me think of Tiger Woods. You never saw it coming that way, that type of thing. And now, you look at a guy that you thought was a bright light, and now he's anything but. Toxic.
I got to say one thing about Desean Watson. I remember watching him when he had Houston. Houston was in Seattle, and it's the first time I seen him play live. And I was just like, this kid's amazing. Just like his physical ability to play the position of quarterback. That was a game in which they almost rallied at the end. I think they stalled at about the Seahawks 50 right at midfield in the last minute or so. But, man, I watched Desean Watson that afternoon, and I said, this guy has the ability to be special for a long period of time in the National Football League, barring injury. Of course, he had a torn-up ACL, came back from it. But still, now you wonder about his career.
Yeah, and when you look at what the Texans can do now, it looks as though they're going to keep him on their 40 or 53-man roster, but he'll probably be an inactive for every game this year.
Pay him $10 million to be inactive.
$10 million, and they're not going to put him on the commissioner's exempt list. I mean, unless this thing's about to go to court, I don't think they get that break. But here's where they are. And if you're the Texans right now, you're probably already tanking. They just traded Shaq Lawson, pretty reasonable pass rusher, to the Jets, and it's like they're sucking for Spencer, as in Spencer Rattler. And on that note, we're going to flip over to our segment, Go for Two, okay, where we debate a couple of topics, and I want to get into college football. We've touched on it here and there on the prop side of it, but the college football landscape, as we head into the first big weekend with some big-time college football matchups, some cross-sectional matchups with Clemson and Georgia and Miami, Alabama, and these big-time games, it looks different now. It started with the portal a year ago where people were allowed to transfer. Normally, you transfer, you have to sit out a year. Now, you can go. Now, after that, the SEC has just had this massive expansion where it's 2 teams, but it's Oklahoma and Texas. So that's now become a super league. So then you've got the other Power 5 conferences, 3 of the 4 other Power 5s, Big Ten, Pac-12, and the ACC. They have formed what's called an alliance. Now, the goal of this alliance is governance, right? Like, they want to make sure they're on the same page on all aspects of the NCAA, including the college football playoff. And then at some point, they're also going to have some scheduling alliances where the top teams from those conferences play each other, and that theoretically would boost their ranking and push those conferences and their teams forward as they move into the college football playoff. So a month ago, it looked like the playoff was about to expand to 12 teams. It was virtually a done deal, and it was being driven by the SEC and their commissioner, Greg Sankey, who at the same time was trying to recruit these 2 teams to come play for them. West Virginia President Gordon G. just said he's no longer in favor of expanding the playoff to 12 teams. He's gone from being a strong advocate for the 12-team playoff to saying he's no longer in favor because he doesn't like the college football changing landscape. I think it's on life support now. I have one of the votes, and I think it nearly needs to be unanimous, and I'm not voting for it. And I think the Big Ten won't vote for it. I think the Pac-12 will probably not vote for it either. What do you think?
12-team playoff, are you kidding me? I mean, how many additional weeks now for these kids? What are they going to be playing until February?
Yeah,
I'll pass on that. I mean, I'm not even in favor of an 8-team playoff, right? I mean, and I know what happens. So if you're at 4, guess who's complaining? 5, 6, 7. If you're at 8, guess who's going to be complaining? 9, 10, 11, 12. You're never going to have everyone happy about whatever format you pick. In my world, I'd love to see the good old days. Just do a poll where one faces 2 maybe in a bowl game. Just settle it that way. And I know you like a part of that, and I'll tell you why. One of the biggest reasons you love college football, and you said this in the past, you said when you were playing for the ranking, as in 1 and 2, it was every game mattered. Every game was so much. Now you can lose a game, 2 games, hell, even 3 games if you're a big enough school, and still somehow find your way into a playoff, especially if you go 8 games, or pardon me, 8 teams.
Well, look, for me, I've never been a playoff advocate. I didn't mind when it was 2. I've kind of grown to come around to 4, but for every round you have, double the number of teams that are upset. And I don't want it to be like basketball where the goal is to get into the dance. The goal should be to win the national championship. And the one thing that always I found unique about college football is to win the title, you had to be the best team for the entire year, not at the end of the year. So
exactly.
I get all of that. I also get the argument that the games at the end of the year might now matter more because you're looking to win a championship. Here was my solution, and I say this not because I'm a playoff advocate, but only because the genie's out of the bottle, and with the money involved, I don't think they're stuffing the genie back in. If you win 8 teams, the reason the SEC wanted 12 teams so bad is they wanted 3 or 4 SEC teams to get in, and that meant a 3 or a 4-loss team might even get in at some point, which I think is a joke. So what I had suggested is if you go with an 8-team playoff, and you have the 4 of the 5 group of or Power 5 teams, because you take the Big 12 out of it now because there's not much left without Oklahoma and Texas. So the SEC, Pac-12, Big 10, and ACC, they're champions, get a berth as long as you don't lose more than 2 games. So you never get into that 3-loss scenario or anything like that. The Big 12 champion can get in with max 1 loss. The highest ranked group of 5 champion can get in with 1 loss, max. And Notre Dame can get in with 1 loss, max. So that gives you 7, gives you an at-large team, which probably goes to the SEC. And in any of those other scenarios, if you have too many losses, that opens up another at-large. So the SEC could still get 2 to 3 teams at some point. And not that I'm an SEC fan. I'm just saying that I think it's 1 less week. I hate the fact that in the 12-team, 4 teams get a bye. You're setting up those 4 power teams to more easily win it now anyway.
Notre Dame, max 1 loss. Why are you giving them the love? Why don't you put them in the at-large group?
Well,
is it TV?
I don't like Notre Dame at all. I hate them, but I just know politically.
Hate's a strong word.
Politically, that's how it works.
Dislike.
Strongly dislike. But politically, that's just kind of how it works. They get special treatment.
Yeah.
So because they do, you kind of got to create a solution within that context. So I don't like it, but that's the way it
But I mean, I just look at Notre Dame, and I think sometimes their schedule isn't the strongest, right? And to allow them to get in with 1 loss over other teams that perhaps are playing in the SEC that play 2. But then again, you have the at-large berth too. I would just throw Notre Dame as an at-large in your little scheme here.
Last thing, in go for 2, on the heels of what we just saw happen in New England, the 49ers are trying to create a 2-quarterback system. They did in the preseason game this weekend. You've got Trey Lance, who has been inconsistent in the preseason. He's shown moments of spectacular, moments of rookie. And you've got Jimmy Garoppolo, who they've done very little with in the preseason. Fans all want to see Trey Lance. And now they're trying to do 2. Do you buy it? Is this a good idea? Is it a bad idea?
Okay, honestly, old school me says it's stupid. A quarterback, you should have 1 quarterback, 1 leader, that's it. But given the circumstances, I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be your guy. I've always said this.
Then make the decision.
Well, hold on a
be
second
Bill
here.
Belichick.
What you can do, you can be Bill Belichick.
Cojones.
Why not just say, hey, maybe Trey Lance isn't ready. Maybe Trey Lance isn't where Mac Jones is.
Yeah.
Maybe Trey Lance can get there by week 8 or week 9 or week 10. Right now, clearly he's not there because guess what? If he was, he would be the guy and Jimmy Garoppolo wouldn't. So what they're trying to do is, hey, let's see how this works. Let's get Lance some reps. Let's see if we can build up his confidence, and hopefully by the time we get to week 7, 8, 9, whatever that number is, he's going to be your guy.
People are trying to compare the situation to New Orleans, where you've got Taysom Hill and he comes in for selected plays.
Yeah, that's a package, though.
And Taysom Hill can be a tight end. He can be a fullback. He can be a wide receiver. Trey Lance doesn't do those things. I mean, yes, he's a great athlete, but they've never practiced him in those spots. It's not what they do. To me, there was an old saying, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none.
Yeah.
Right? I don't like this at all. I think, see what you've got with Jimmy if he's your guy. And if he's not, then you go with Trey Lance. But trying to sit there, you're going to get the worst out of Jimmy Garoppolo because he's the guy that's going to lose any rhythm he might have. This would be the worst thing for him. It doesn't hurt Trey Lance. Hurts Jimmy G.
Well, when you look at this, I think they have a quarterback, and their quarterback is Trey Lance. It is. It's just how you are bringing him along. You're just trying to ease him in rather than just throwing him to the wolves, particularly if he's not ready for it.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it is Wanna Bet Football with Farhan and Moj, brought to you by Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance and the West Coast Auto Group. When you partner with Blue Recruitment, you not only help your business grow, you also help the community grow around you. Our team works tirelessly to make sure we deliver an exceptional service because we work for you. We work for our associates. We work for everybody. Temporary staffing at its best. Contact us now at 778-928-6745. That's blueinc.com, BLOOINC.com. Football with Farhan and Moj, brought to you by the West Coast Auto Group and Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance. And, before we leave the Mac Jones thing altogether, as we get into Wanna Bet, this is not just the Rookie of the Year, the Offensive Rookie of the Year, but there are a number of props and fantasy selections that are going to get affected by this decision. So we mentioned that at one point, Mac Jones was plus 800 to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's now plus 250. He is now officially the front runner because when you look at the other quarterbacks and what they've got around them, not just what Mac Jones did in the preseason, but when you look at what these guys have got around them, Mac Jones is probably in the best position to succeed based on offensive line and offensive weapons.
Yeah, you look at Rookie of the Year odds. Jones is now at plus 250 to win it all. Trevor Lawrence at plus 400. My pick, Zach Wilson at plus 450. Justin Fields at plus 700.
Where's my guy Najee?
Trey Lance at plus 800.
Where's my guy Najee?
I think he's like plus 8 or 9. He's up there.
He's the guy.
He's the guy.
He's the guy.
Regarding the Patriots and their futures, though, it didn't impact them because New England is still 25-1 to win the Super Bowl, 12-1 to win the AFC, and plus 325 to win the AFC East.
But their win total went up half a game. It went up from 9 to 9.5. Not epic, but a certain sign of respect for a young rookie quarterback when you figure he just replaced a veteran former MVP. But on top of that, if you're Jacoby Myers, the receiver, you are now more valuable in fantasy, because you've got a much more accurate quarterback throwing you the football. If you are Damian Harris, the running back, you are much more valuable in fantasy. The reason for that? Because what does New England do at the goal line with Cam Newton? They run Cam Newton. Damian Harris can now score more touchdowns. And then on top of that, you've got yardage totals on the prop side for Mac Jones. 4,000 yards, 26 touchdown passes. You taking that? Over or under?
Take the under.
Take the under?
Take the under.
All right, let's get through a few of our other things. Let's get to some single game betting. So let's get to there. We'll go through 5 games handicapping for week 1. San Francisco -7 at Detroit. Who do you like?
Okay, Goff wasn't any good with the Rams when he actually had weapons. He doesn't have anything in Detroit. They could bring Barry Sanders out of retirement. Guys like 62, and he'd probably be their best offensive weapon right now when he's 62. Take San Francisco -7. I think Detroit's just they're going to be a tire fire this year. That's all I'll say about Detroit.
Seattle -2.5 at Indy. And now, look, Indy's not nothing. We did think they had a chance when they got Carson Wentz to potentially be the co-favorite in their division. But now he's missing another 5 days because of COVID protocol. He was supposed to get back to practice on Monday. Does it matter? How does it affect this line?
This, to me, is a dog's breakfast. And I say that because you have the COVID issues with the Colts. Who's starting at quarterback? Most of the Sims, believe it or not, have the Colts winning by a 4-point spread.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at the spread and if you're looking at the Sims, you'd probably take Indy. They're at home. The old rule, always take the home dog. There's a part of me that would take Indy here, but there's just so much uncertainty regarding this team. I don't like this game at all.
Yeah, it's a tough one to pick. And, for me, again, new offense. Russell Wilson hasn't played at all in the preseason. They only had one starting lineman available on the weekend. We'll get into that in Hawk Talk. But so I still think there's an adjustment there. You still have Dwayne Brown, who, he hasn't practiced. There's going to be an adjustment there. You've got pretty ordinary corners.
New OC?
Yeah, so, I think all of that, I don't think the Seahawks are a lock in this at all. I would take the home dog, but more than anything, I'd stay away from this game. Cleveland at Kansas City favored by 6.
Browns 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games when playing on the road against KC. 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games on the road, period. Do you take the Browns here, getting the points? You hear this story about the Browns and this being, a bit of a revenge game considering what happened in the playoffs. I don't know if I buy into that. There's been some talk out of the Browns camp that could come into play. But getting Cleveland in 6 points on the road, I think I'll still take Kansas City.
I am taking the Chiefs. Here's why, Moj.
Why?
They're better. They're better by a lot. They're better on both sides of the ball.
That's the type of insight that people are coming to this show for. Right there.
They're
better.
I mean, I don't know how you bet against Patrick Mahomes at home if it's less than a touchdown. When it gets above 7, I'm thinking about it. At 6, I'm still taking Cleveland. And they've still got some banged-up players. What's OBJ going to do? There's still some questions for them as well. Jacksonville -3 at Houston. This might be the only time this year
you bet on Jacksonville?
That Jacksonville's favored. When else are they going to be favored?
What does that tell you about how bad Houston is? The fact that
Sucks for Spencer, I told you.
The fact that Jacksonville, the Jags are favored
on the road.
On the road, exactly. Jacksonville -3. I'm just looking at this game and going, I don't want to touch this one either, because if you put a gun to my head, I'd take Jacksonville.
I really like what I saw from Trevor Lawrence over the
11
weekend.
11 of 12, he looked good.
You know what? Cam Newton, Houston, there's your landing spot if you ask me. But I would take Jacksonville in that game. Chicago at the Rams. Rams favored by 7.
Rams are good starters. 8-2-1 against the spread in their last 11 games played in September. 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games played in week 1. Hey, Matthew Stafford, there might be some kinks to work out in terms of running that offense, but I still take the Rams -7 at home versus the Bears.
Andy Dalton's looked really ordinary to me in the preseason. They've limited what they've asked him to do.
Andy Dalton is ordinary.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So a 7-point spread, and it's in Los Angeles. I think you got to go there. I just don't think there's enough. You look at Chicago, their offensive line problems. They've got a lack of offensive weapons. I don't think they can bridge this gap. I'm taking the Rams. Props, as far as players are concerned, Patrick Mahomes passing yards. We just talked about Mac Jones. 4,000 is his number. Patrick Mahomes over-under 5,005.5 passing yards. Where are you going?
I think I would probably take the under. And one of the reasons why, I just think that, I don't know.
I don't know. That's the analysis.
Call it a gut feeling. You know why I call it I don't know is because I had these notes on Patrick Mahomes and I forgot to print them out. But I think one of the things, trying to recollect here very quickly, is the fact that when you look at Patrick Mahomes, when they have games that are tight, he doesn't throw the ball. Or pardon me, when they have games where they're favored heavily, they have a tendency to run the ball a little bit more, right? So I think when you look at Mahomes in this situation with this team this year, I'll take the under.
I would have taken the under if we weren't at 17 games. I think that extra game is going to put him over the top, and I would have taken the under, and I'm a big Mahomes fan, but at the early part of the season, even though I like the pieces on that offensive line, they've still got to get comfortable playing with one another. There's an adjustment period there. He's coming off those injuries. I think they'll be a little bit more conservative and run the ball a little bit more, which made me hedge a little bit in that Cleveland game. But I think overall, that 7th game will put him over the top and get him over 5,000, which he's done before. Jameis Winston passing yards over under 4,200. I wanted to find out his interception total for an over-under total.
I couldn't find that. I looked a few places, but the only thing I could find was yardage and touchdowns.
He's 20-1 to lead the NFL in passing yards. So not a lot of people believe he's going to go there, but he's going to sling it. He's got a pass-savvy offense. I'm taking the under primarily because Michael Thomas isn't available for probably half the season. So they've got some questions on that offensive side of the ball. The big win for him is can he keep his turnovers down? But if he can sit there in that 4,000 to 4,200 yard total, I think that's a win if he can keep his interceptions in the single digits.
You just hit the nail right on the head. Interceptions, single digits. To me, when it comes to Winston, it's about ball security. Can you teach an old dog new tricks? I don't know, and that's the reason why I'll take the under, because I can see a scenario where he throws 2 or 3 picks in a game, and boom, here comes Hill, right? They're going to put him in a quarterback because they want ball security. To me, that's the big issue with Winston. If, for whatever reason, he can reduce those interceptions, I'll take the over. But
here's the only way to reduce interceptions.
I don't see it happening.
Here's the only way he can reduce interceptions, and I think Sean Payton is going to have some control here, and he's going to teach Jameis Winston the art of throwing the ball underneath and checking it down and not putting it up top all the time. Use Alvin Kamara. So I do think he can get there in terms of the interception total, but I'm still taking under because he's not going to take as many shots down the field as he may have attempted to do under a guy like Bruce Arians. Let's get into a couple of injured players, Saquon Barkley and OBJ, as we get into fantasy. Okay, I want to get your opinion on their value. ProFootballFocus.com lists Barkley as a high-risk versus reward fantasy pick. the back end of the first round of drafts. How high would you rank him? PFF has him as their 8th player overall. ESPN as their 6th player overall.
I've seen him as high as 3.
Crazy.
Right?
I don't see him playing week 1. And if he does, he's going to be on a pitch count week 1 and 2.
Well, here's the one thing about fantasy drafts, whether you're playing fantasy baseball, fantasy football, whatever, you can't win your league in the first round.
No.
You can't. But you can lose your league in the first round. And usually leagues are won by some of those value picks you get later on that are added to what you have from your first round or your second round. But if you screw up on your first round pick and he doesn't produce the value that you expect out of him, you're done. You are really up against it. So I don't think if I'm in a pool this year, if I'm in a league, I'm taking that. I don't want to take that chance.
Would you take him at the end of the first round?
Probably at the end, maybe, yeah. And again, I'd have to look at other options. But to take him 3rd, 5th, or 3rd, 4th, 5th, man, you are putting a lot of stock in a guy who we still don't know if he's going to be able to run the ball at 100% all year long.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at McCaffrey, Kamara, Cook, I think he's significantly below that. He's got the skills to do what they do in terms of being a multi-dimensional threat out of the backfield, but I just think that for those first couple of weeks, I'd be nervous. I wouldn't take him that early. Again, late first, early second, as far as I'm concerned, depending on obviously how big your league is. OBJ, another player who's been dealing with injury, hasn't done anything so far. I think he's just started doing 11-on-11 work now. Expected to play week 1, but not a guarantee. And when you look at the amount of depth at receiver, is there a need to take OBJ this high?
No. And, you look at some of the other receivers that are out there. The thing is with OBJ, to me, he's like one of these guys that's just, he's branded himself so much. And, everybody knows about Odell Beckham Jr. You go back to the catch. There's other receivers that are just as good.
Oh, yeah.
That, you look at an Adam Thielen, a Tyler Lockett, right? I mean, those guys, to me, I'd rather have Tyler Lockett than Odell Beckham.
Yeah, OBJ was over 1,000 yards his last fully healthy season, but, can he stay that way? He's had some injury problems. You look at PFF, they've got him 59th overall, ESPN 33rd overall, and for me, there's probably 10 receivers, 10, that I would take above OBJ right now. So 3rd round pick maybe late second, but I think there's, it's going to be receiver heavy. There's a lot of great receivers out there, and I think you take OBJ late, stay away from him. Before we go to break, a couple of underrated value picks. Sammy Watkins, his ADP is 260. Mike Davis, I think he's going to do some great things in his new home. He's at 56. Jameis Winston, we mentioned him earlier, at 169. Robert Woods, another undervalued pick. His ADP is 43. Deebo Samuel at 88. Javonte Williams.
There's my guy.
64. Tell me why.
Well, I mean, I look at that situation, and the fact is this. He's sharing the spot right now with Melvin Gordon, but Gordon's a free agent in 2022. The guy's had fumbleitis throughout his career. I look for Williams to take over probably by mid-season. Who knows, maybe even earlier than that. I think you got some value with Williams.
Yeah, for me, I like Mike Davis. When you look at what he did pinch hitting for Christian McCaffrey last year, I think, in his situation right now, I think he's going to be very successful. And Robert Woods is another guy. I mean, Cooper Kupp is your big 3rd down guy, but in terms of red zone targets, I like what Robert Woods will bring. Matthew Stafford's going to love him, and I think he's an undervalued player as well.
Hey,
Overrated players.
Let me throw this to you.
Go
A couple of underrated guys. Deebo Samuel, the 49ers, and Robert Woods of the Chargers.
Yeah, I've got Robert Woods. He's there for me.
Okay, good. And I think Samuel, if he's healthy, guy's explosive, if he can be
productive. But you got to look at who's throwing him the football.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm talking about middle to late rounds, okay?
Yeah,
I'm not talking about
But, okay.
Hey, but I was going to mention, too, I figured out the stuff on Mahomes. This is courtesy of the folks at Sharp Football Analytics, right? Kansas City currently favored by a touchdown or more in 10 games, which does not bode well for Mahomes' yardage. In 2020, he averages 275 yards when the Chiefs won by more than a touchdown, compared to 352 yards per game in all other contests. Great nugget there from Sharp Analytics. That's another reason why you take the under.
Last one, quickly, before we go to break. Justin Herbert, as we look at overrated players. Beware. There's always that second-year regression. Only 10 quarterbacks other than Herbert have previously thrown for 3,500 or more yards as a rookie. 8 of those took a step back the following season. Don't go bullish on Herbert.
I'll throw a couple in for you. Devontae Adams of the Packers. We don't know
Take him high.
Oh, come on. Who's going Rodgers, what's going to happen there? You don't know. Plus, the other
Rodgers is really good.
Yeah, I know he's really, really good, but here's the thing about Adams. Plus, he's injury prone. Like, I'm staying away from Adams. ADP of 17, not happening for me. Jamar Chase is going 47th right now.
He's had a lot of drops during preseason.
They've got targets in Higgins and Boyd, and he's ahead of receivers. I mentioned some of these guys earlier. You mentioned Odell Beckham Jr. He's getting drafted ahead of him, Tyler Lockett, and Adam Thielen in terms of ADP when it comes to Jamar Chase. Sorry.
I just don't like what I've seen so far in camp and the reports we're getting out of there. So I'd be a little nervous there. But when you look at what Justin Jefferson did, Chase was better than him. Their last year, he was ahead of him, but he had the injury, he stayed in. I think Chase is going to be a great player. I'm not sure he's going to have a great rookie season. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into some Hawk talk as the Seahawks get ready. They just made a trade. And, last week we were all excited because they had signed our guy Luke Wilson, but he just lasted a day. That's it for him. But a lot going on in Seattle, CFL, that, and much more as football with Farhan and Moj continues.
Gain easy access to a diverse talent pool of fractional workers and gig masters in a simple and easy manner to get things done. Leverage time and money to your core business. Visit lemon.com and book a gig master today for our next project. That's LMON.com.
Are you a tech startup or a small business owner? Are you looking for a way to finance or manage your business payroll? Wages Corp is here for you. At Wages Corp, we have cost-effective solutions to help you finance and or run your payroll efficiently so you can get on with running your business and making your dreams come true. We operate throughout Canada and we're here for you. For more information, visit us at wagescorp.com, follow us on LinkedIn, or give us a call at toll-free 1-866-311-4441, extension 401. Wages Corp, for your small business or tech startup, national coverage, locally minded, and here for you.
All right, let's get into Hawk talk. The Seahawks finally put in a good offensive performance this weekend in their final preseason game. Russell Wilson was supposed to play in this game, but at the last second they decided not to make that decision. And Geno Smith got the start. Dwayne Brown still out. They've got other injuries along that offensive line. They just didn't want to risk both Wilson and Carson behind that group. Disappointed you didn't get to see any of Russell Wilson, or does it matter?
I don't think it really matters. I thought perhaps with the new offensive coordinator there in Waldron that they might give him some reps in preseason, like maybe a couple of series, but I mean, he's a veteran. He knows what's going on. I think they figured it out with him. So, hey, unless you want to have a situation like the Colts where you lose a running back like Dobbins because of the fact you're playing him in the preseason, can you imagine if you would lose Russell Wilson in a preseason game, what would happen in Seattle? Pete Carroll wouldn't even be able to leave the stadium.
No, fair enough. But for me, I do think a couple of series, especially when you're breaking in a new offense, isn't necessarily out of line. Some of it's going to be handoffs and motions and formations, just making sure you're getting the right looks with the right plays, maybe a couple of quick throws. It's not like you got to drop them back and try to find DK Metcalf over and over deep. I think they could have played him a little bit, but I understand, given the offensive line, why they were going to be conservative. But it was also the first time we've seen remnants of what that offense is actually going to look like in season. We didn't see it in the first two preseason games. Did you like what you saw?
I mean, did we really see anything, though? And you're talking about a preseason game. You know what it's like in preseason. Everything is so vanilla on both sides of the football. You don't want to show anything that you have up your sleeve. So I really, I'll take the fifth on that when it comes to what we saw out of that offense in preseason. I want to see what happens when they start playing for real, and that will happen in Indianapolis against the Colts.
D. Eskridge, the Seahawks top pick at receiver, taken in the third round. They finally got to see him, and Pete Carroll said afterwards that this is very much the type of guy we thought we were getting. Did you like what you saw there?
Well, jet sweep for 9 yards, coming across motion, and then he caught a ball for 19 yards. Based on those two plays, it sounds like it's the second coming of DK Metcalf out of Seattle right now. I mean, come on, let's get real here. It's two plays.
No, but it isn't.
I understand what you're saying.
Grade him for more than that. You'll see his route running. You'll see his ability to beat people.
I understand that, but at the same time, let's not get carried away here in terms of what this guy's going to be able to do for the Seahawks. Is the physical component there? Yeah, I think you saw that in those two plays, but let's just temper expectations a little bit because right now people are going over the moon based on two plays.
Well, I do think he will be an upgrade at the number 3 receiver spot.
Yes,
right?
I'll give you that.
They've got an upgraded tight end, so collectively, you may have 4 that are going to work for you. And that really is what you need right now. I mean, when you look at everybody behind that, I think it's, they're saying that it's probably their best group of 6, but 4, 5, and 6 don't necessarily do a lot for me. But I think Eskridge at number 3, based on what I saw in college and what I'm hearing from the last week, I think they've finally got a bit of an upgrade there.
And the other thing, too, with Eskridge is maybe if you're talking about fantasy, maybe he's the guy that provides you some value late in your draft, like very late in your draft.
Interesting with Quandre Diggs as we go to the defensive side of the ball. He saw Jamal Adams and his hold-in work for him. Dwayne Brown is still waiting. So Diggs decided to do the same thing. Do the Hawks react to this at all?
Well, I know in terms of Dwayne Brown, what they've talked about is perhaps giving him some incentives for this current season, kind of like to meet him halfway rather than going all in and giving him an extension. Perhaps give him some incentives where he makes more money this season. Maybe they do the same with Diggs.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're even going to balk at Diggs at all, just because of the stage of the game that it is. I'd be surprised if they went too deep on this, and I can't see either one of those players not being available week 1.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be ready to go. I mean, what's going on right now? I mean, they're holding up. Hey, here's the other thing too. You got to realize, we saw it with Earl Thomas a couple years ago, right? You don't have if you don't feel comfortable at your contract situation, you go out there and you get hurt. Guess what? You could lose millions of dollars. All it takes is for someone to roll up on Dwayne Brown's ankle or leg or knee, and he could be gone, right? So why bother?
But they are going to play because they can't give up those bonuses. They can't pay those.
Oh, no, they'll play.
They'll play once you get to game 1.
Yeah, once you get to game 1. But are you going to risk all that playing in an exhibition game? Don't think so.
No, not at all. Rashad Penny, as we go through this right now with their running back situation, you've got DJ Dallas, you've got Travis Homer, you've got Alex Collins. I've seen all I need to see from Rashad Penny. Between his injuries and a lack of production, I am done with Rashad Penny.
Well, if you're a Seahawk fan, you were probably pretty excited what you saw with DJ Dallas in the first couple of preseason games. Alex Collins this last weekend, what was it, 89 yards?
Yeah,
he was in the 80s,
great.
whatever. He looked solid. And he even looked decent last year when they ran the football with him. So if you're looking at Penny and you think this is his ceiling, if you're the Seahawks, yeah, maybe it is time to move on. If you think there's still more for Penny, and you obviously don't think there's more, you think he's reached his ceiling, maybe you do cut him. Save yourself some money.
There is a school of thought when you look at the last few years how deep the Seahawks have had to go at running back. And there's really no sense in cutting him because they think they'll probably need 5 at some point. But boy, you know what? There are guys on the streets all the time, right? Who was the Alabama running back they had last year that took some snaps for them? I'm having a brain cramp, but there are guys you can find on a regular basis at that time when you get to your 3rd running back and you need to pick up a 5th just in case. Those guys are available. And I don't want to see them hang on to him, pay more than they need to. If he's your 5th back, you can get more for less. He's a dime a dozen at this stage. I'm done with Rashad Penny.
You're not thinking Sean Alexander, right?
No. I'll get it when we come back after the break. Football, before we go, Sidney Jones, I got to get my Husky thing. Our producer, Michael Toy, has been busting our chops to try
Bo Scarborough.
Bo Scarborough, that's who it was.
Yeah.
He's trying to get us to talk about J.K. Dobbins, and we haven't. Even though he's hurt, he's out for the year now, played in the last preseason game. But Sidney Jones, former Washington Husky cornerback, played with Budda Baker, played on that death row defense, was in Jacksonville, was drafted by Philadelphia, went to Jacksonville, and has now been traded for by the Seattle Seahawks. This is a team that still needs help at corner, and Sidney Jones, who had a decent year when he landed in Jacksonville last year, could give them an upgrade.
I just look at that situation. They brought in Witherspoon. Clearly, he hasn't been the answer. They're going to need some help. Maybe they get it in this deal. But I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns for the Seahawks moving into the season. I mean, they've talked about the offensive line in preseason. Well, Brown will return, as you mentioned, right? That will help. Center situation, who knows? Probably that's the weakest part of that offensive line. But when you look at the defense, right now, that cornerback situation is probably the biggest concern. There was talk about KJ Wright moving and how, the Seahawks would replace him. I think Jordan Brooks has looked really good in preseason.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this guy who has the potential to take it to another level and perhaps even be an impact player. I mean, you look at the other positions in terms of the defensive line, they've got some players there. I just think the cornerback situation is probably the biggest concern that team has, other than, your 3rd or 4th or 5th receivers. But we're talking 3rd, 4th, 5th. We're not talking 1, 2.
Yeah.
Corners, you're talking about your starters being a problem.
Absolutely, but we're almost there. Almost there. You're doing the games, aren't you?
Yeah, we will be
Pre-game,
doing the
post-game?
games on Bloomberg 1410, myself and Chris Burns, and you're going to be doing some pinch hitting work too.
I'll be doing a couple when you bring me into the fold. I know you're a busy play-by-play guy on the CFL side too. Speaking of which, when we come back, we will talk some CFL Week 4 in the books, football with Farhan and Moj.
Kidsport believes in the potential of kids and the power of sport to transform lives. Kidsport helps kids get off the sidelines and into the game. All kids deserve a chance to get involved in amateur sport and experience the physical and mental health benefits that can come from a positive sport experience. Kidsport provides support to kids by removing financial barriers that can prevent them from playing organized sport. Help us raise awareness of the program. Simply share the opportunity for a Kidsport grant with families in your life that might need a little extra help. Kidsport covers the registration fees for a season of sport. For more information, visit kidsport.ca and click on Apply for Grant. You'll be directed to one of 40 volunteer-run chapters throughout BC or the Kidsport BC office if your community does not have a local chapter. Help us spread the word all over BC that Kidsport is ready to help so all kids can play.
Football with Farhan and Moj, brought to you by Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance and the West Coast Auto Group. Before we get to our CFL segment, let's get you to the answer to our trivia question. Before the Ravens broke the wins record for the preseason with 20, what team held the record previously for most consecutive preseason wins? Your answer, the Green Bay Packers under Vince Lombardi. They won 19 straight. I bet you back then, every starter played every preseason game too.
And I'll bet you Vince Lombardi would hate to lose even a preseason game. Guaranteed.
I'm sure you are correct. He probably would have hated what Jake Ruby allegedly has done here, which has forced his demise in Edmonton. So the
offensive lineman for the Elks.
So the Elks offensive lineman Jake Ruby has been released by the Elks on the heels of their COVID outbreak, and it is for violating COVID protocol. And basically, what he did apparently is he misrepresented. You used the word lied.
He lied.
He lied about his vaccination status. He wanted to live a vaccinated life while remaining unvaccinated.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. We had a buddy of ours named Duck back in the day. I'll just call him Duck.
Duck.
All right? Now, Duck was awesome when you went out. You want to know why? Because he was like a big dude, big guy. And Duck would, he'd tell people he's an NHL referee. One time I think he was Steve DeBerg. He was either an athlete, a fireman, you name it. Duck was like everything, right? But when the internet came along, Duck's little scam wouldn't work anymore because now you would just Google whoever he was supposed to be, and if he was there, he wasn't there, right? Newsflash for you, Jake. You can't pull the wool over people's eyes in today's age of technology and information. People are going to find out one way or the other, all right? So, what are you thinking? You don't think actually that somebody's, I don't know, maybe will phone whoever that you said you had your vaccination done with and double check and corroborate what's going on? Come on. I mean, how dumb can you be?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how they found out.
Simple, they probably just did their homework.
Yeah, I mean, well,
right?
But apparently there were documents involved. So I'm curious to see how they, I mean, obviously he would have had to have told somebody.
Well, if there's documents involved and he forged them, hello, that's even more of an offense.
There you go. So the Elks have now gone 5 straight days with no positive COVID tests. Some members of the organization were able to return to the building today. The full team, as far as people who are not in protocol, they had 13 as of yesterday. So whatever the number is tomorrow, barring any positive tests between now and then, they'll be able to have a full session in the building. They're going to be doing some sort of a walkthrough and team meetings and things of that nature.
I would love to be part of that team. Or I shouldn't say I wouldn't be love to be part. I would love to be in the room with that team when this discussion comes up, because you know that the players who are not vaccinated and those who are, there's going to have to be some friction, because you're talking about messing around with the other guy's livelihood, all right? You're talking about me losing a paycheck because you didn't get vaccinated. I wonder how team morale is going to be with the Elks moving.
Well, on top of that, they are having some internal meetings because the organization would like to put some additional restrictive measures in place. They basically want to take them back before week 2 because the restrictions got loosened in week 2 as far as your ability to go to restaurants and things like that. The Elks want to go back to those restrictions, but they need the team to buy in. So they're going to the team's basically going to vote on it and see where they want to go with it. Because they can't go outside of what the CFLPA is going to allow in this situation. So we'll see. But the Elks organization would like to be a little bit more tight, take even more restrictions and more preventative measures to make sure that they don't have to go down this road again. But if all goes well, Battle of Alberta, Edmonton at Calgary on Monday will take place. Meanwhile, as we head into Labor Day weekend and all of those rivalry games, Andrew Harris gets to go to Saskatchewan. And what'd you make of that Winnipeg-Calgary game on the weekend? Number one, you had Jake Mayer, the rookie quarterback who goes 16 for 16 in the first half. And then Andrew Harris, who played his first game of the season, and he looked really good doing it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Calgary was probably, 2 yards short of winning that football game. And I say that because of the fact that it was a scenario there late in the game where they were second and long, and I think they fell short by 2 yards trying to get the first down. If they get that first down, they don't have to settle for the field goal. They can go out there and perhaps even score a touchdown to put the game away. Loved what I saw with the kid. Tremendous poise, the ability to stand in the pocket and deliver. He threw some great footballs in tight windows. Really, really enjoyed what I saw with this kid. And I'm wondering, maybe I'm a little ahead of myself here, but is he the guy even when Bo Levi Mitchell does come back down the road?
Yeah, there'll be
given where they are in their season.
Yeah, it's early. And, I always say with rookie quarterbacks, and we've seen this with Jonathan Jennings and others, talk to me the second time through.
Yep, good point.
And, we're seeing it with some of the rookie quarterbacks like Vernon Adams, who's struggling right now the second time through, while others like Cody Fajardo and Nick Arbuckle are doing fairly well. Andrew Harris, meanwhile, 17 carries for 81 yards in his season debut as he goes to Saskatchewan. Meanwhile, with Adams, what do you make of it?
Well, you talked about it the previous game. I didn't get to watch most of the game as we were having a fun time at one of the Ottawa barbecue joints.
Saw the picture.
Yeah, the Fat Boy Smokehouse, I think it was called.
I've been there. Exceptional.
Oh, here's the story about Dwayne Ford, the TSN guy.
The guy who brings his own meat on the road?
No, there's like a Kentucky Derby type platter that they have.
Yeah.
There was three of us that chowed down on this platter. Apparently Ford ate it all by himself.
Oh, I could see it.
Yeah, he's just tremendous. All right, so I didn't get to watch much of the game. Going back to the week before I watched that game, you made a great point. Adams had a lot of times where he could probably check down and made a play. He was really trying to force the issue 2 weeks ago. You tell me, what did you see in that game?
I'm seeing a player that got a big contract and is trying to live up to it. I see a player that's not having fun. He thinks he needs to be a star. He's putting it all on himself. He needs to get back to being the guy we saw a year ago and take what the defense gives him, make the simple play, relax. The CFL, not just the Owls, need Vernon Adams to be really good. I hope he gets it back, and he'll have an opportunity against what will be an aggressive Ottawa defense that's also looking to bounce back.
Dave Dickinson one time told our good friend Julio Caravetta this. He says, hey, you're not going to win every down, all right? Yeah. There are going to be downs where you're going to have to throw the ball away. You might have to take a sack, whatever the case may be. You can't win every down. I think right now Vernon Adams, from what we're seeing, is trying to win every down.
You were in Ottawa. What were your takeaways?
Well, takeaways number one, Matt Nichols looks like he's about 72 years old. The arm strength right now is not there. I don't know if it's an injury. I don't know if it's, just age catching up to him. It's his 9th year in the league. But just right now, he just can't throw the ball downfield effectively. So that's one of the takeaways. Takeaway number two, from an Ottawa perspective, give big props to Mike Benavides.
Yeah.
That defense was decimated with injuries. They lost both their starting corners, lost the starting halfback, didn't have Cleon Lang in the middle of that interior line, and yet they still managed to hang tough with the Lions through most of the football game. From a BC perspective, again, defensively, I thought this unit is playing great. I think Jordan Williams, who was named a CFL Top Performer of the Week, is the real deal at linebacker. And I just think defensively right now the Lions are playing with a lot of aggressiveness and a lot of confidence.
I think they need another defensive lineman in the lineup to have a better rotation. They had Bonner play this week and he did well, but I think they need to find a way roster-wise to make that work for them. They're close. And, in fairness to Matt Nichols, I thought he was better throwing the ball in that last game, but he also had a lot of drops.
Okay,
right? Well, some deeper throws over the middle.
This is the argument that I had with Julio, right? The Caravetta, our color analyst, of course. And one of the things Julio kept talking about, well, where were those balls thrown? They were drops because they were perhaps behind the receiver, too low, too high. But my point is this, hey, it's professional football.
Catch the ball.
They got to make the catch.
Who do you like this week? Montreal at Ottawa, Friday.
Take the Owls.
You will?
Yeah, Vernon Adams is going to get it together. And despite what that Ottawa defense can do, I just don't see anything offensively that bodes well for Ottawa.
Yeah, I can't argue with that one. Winnipeg and Saskatchewan in Sask.
Ooh.
Banjo Bowl, the Banjo Bowl is next week. So
to me, this is a toss-up. I wasn't overly impressed with Winnipeg against Calgary. They lost against Toronto. Saskatchewan's on a bit of a roll right now. I think home field advantage might do it for the Rough Riders. Cyril takes Saskatchewan.
I'm going to take Winnipeg. I like what Andrew Harris did. I think they're going to get him more involved in the pass game. I love the way Zach Collaros is playing. Best offensive line in the league. I think they're going to do a number on Saskatchewan's defense, which I still think is doing it with smoke and mirrors. I'm taking the Peg in that game. Toronto at Hamilton.
You know, I look at this game and, okay, do you buy into what Hamilton did last time around, or do you think Toronto is going to bounce back and play effectively in this one? I'll take Hamilton just based on home field. Mazzoli, Evans, I mean, you got two quarterbacks there. I don't know. I just look at Hamilton, and I'm still not sold on him. I don't know why. It's just.
But you're taking him.
Yeah, I'll take him. And again, it's a game that I probably wouldn't even touch if I had to put money on. But if I have to pick a team, I'll take Hamilton.
I like Nick Arbuckle a lot right now. I think he has looked really good throwing the football. I think that offense is finally starting to come together. I'm taking Toronto in this game. They've been waiting, so they've had 2 weeks to prep. I always like teams coming out of that situation as well. So I'll go with the Argos there. Edmonton at Calgary.
Calgary. I like what Jake Mayer. I mean, they played Winnipeg tough in Winnipeg. Now they're at home against an Edmonton team that I think is going to be in complete disarray. Again, I just wonder what the esprit de corps is with the Elks right now, considering what they went through. I'll take Calgary in this.
See, I think the esprit de corps is going to go in the other direction.
You think it's going to bring them together?
Well, look at the Canucks the first two games coming out of their COVID break.
Yeah, but that's different, though. That's the fact that, I mean, you're talking about the fact that this is a group right now that has players on that team that aren't vaccinated that could cost you a paycheck. You don't think there's guys looking at the guy across the room and saying, hey, you know what? If you cost me a paycheck, I'm coming after your ass. Sorry.
You may be right. I'm still going with Trevor Harris. I think that offense found a few things in BC in that last game. I think they'll build on that, and I think Edmonton is going to find a way to win in Calgary. So as far as those Labor Day games, I've got every road team. I've been doing this a lot. And here's the other thing. Take the under. 15 games, only 2 times the over has won. Scoring is down. The players of the week this week, not a single offensive player among them. 2 defensive guys and a special teams guy. Scoring is down. It's a disturbing trend. I'm trying to get a sense of why, but I've got all the road teams winning. You have got all the home teams but one winning. We both pick Montreal.
You know, the offense, the lack thereof in the CFL right now, it is concerning because it's meant to be a wide open, entertaining game. Too many of these games are, quote, as you mentioned, unders, right?
I expected to see a lot of missed tackles because 2 years of not tackling. Really what we're seeing is drop balls. We're seeing poor O-line play, quarterback play that's up and down depending on where you go. But, it'll get better. But this one, you're going to see a lot of road teams win, which means low-scoring games.
How about this theory? Big picture. I know we're running short on time. Do we got time? Michael, do we got time to talk? Good.
It's digital.
Why are we asking him anyway? It's our show. Here's this. The quarterback, CFL used to be such a quarterback-driven league, right? You had these quarterbacks who were mobile, who could throw on the run, who could run the ball, who could throw the ball. You know, maybe they were a little too small for the National Football League. They were 6'2" instead of that 6'4", 6'5" pocket passer. Do you think the CFL, there might be a lack of quarterbacking talent because the players that they used to recruit are now being gobbled up by NFL teams?
Oh, boy, that's too big picture. I don't think we have enough space in the digital sphere for that.
All right.
But, no, look, it's a good question. I mean, we've talked before about how 10 years earlier,
That's what
10 years earlier, Russell Wilson would have been in the CFL.
Yeah.
That's just the way it would have gone. But, you also have some of the guys that were athletic that are getting a little older too, right? So there are good quarterbacks to go around. This league's going to find them. I look at the Lions. I think they're on the verge of breaking out. They need to be a little bit better in the red zone, but a couple drops at key times. You look at Winnipeg, couple drops at key times. I think those things are going to work themselves out, and we're going to see better offensive football at key stages in games, and it's going to make for some more entertainment. But, I haven't looked at these games and seen a lot of 1-2 punt dogs. Like you're seeing teams that are moving the ball, first downs are there, they're just not scoring.
Well,
not
again, another conversation that we had on the road, maybe perhaps it's a lot of teams subscribing to the Rich Stubler bend but don't break type of defense. For people that don't know, Rich Stubler, longtime defensive coordinator in the league, and his theory was, hey, you know what, I'll let you do whatever you want to do, but as soon as you get down to our 20, we're going to tighten things up. And I think when you look at the CFL this year, you're right. I mean, the Lions are a great example. They 20 to 20, they can move the ball. As soon as they get down to the 20, for whatever reason, they're settling for field goal attempts rather than touchdowns. So maybe there's something to that too.
Thanks for tuning in and logging on. Football with Farhan and Moj brought to you by Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance. Has your employee benefits plan evolved, or is it time for a second opinion? Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance includes all of the employee benefits that you'd expect, from health and dental to critical illness to 24/7 telemedicine, even accounting, HR, and legal experts. Chambers plan the employee benefits of tomorrow, today.
And of course, the West Coast Auto Group, West Coast Ford Lincoln, West Coast Kia, Mazda, Nissan, and Toyota, just across the bridge in Maple Ridge. Of course, visit them online at westcoastautogroup.com. And a big shout out to Scotty and Michelle Jones running all the dealerships out there in the Tri-City area.
Thanks to our producer, Michael Toy. Thanks to executive producer, Scott Ackles. Peter Young graced us today. Christian, Adam, all those guys, Rob, working hard for us.
New nickname for Michael.
What's that?
Boy.
Boy?
Boy Toy.
Well, ooh.
Isn't that good?
Not good.
No.
Not good.
Oh, I like that.
We might have to review that. Next week, it will be our full launch. That means in person, you'll get to see Moj. He'll shave, he'll dress nice. He won't wear a golf shirt. I'll be in Tampa. I'll wear a tropical shirt as I'm down there for the NFL season opener, but we'll do the show there. We'll have some great guests. It'll be a lot of fun. Tell your friends. Follow us at Farhan and Moj, and get onto our website at farhanandmoj.com. We'll see you next Tuesday.